Welcome to Top Spot 40 Music Docuseries, where we bring the stories behind the music to life.
In the sweltering heat of a Rio night in 1939, Ary Barroso sat at his piano feeling restless. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 tiny drums, and something in that sound pulled him back to the hills and rivers of his childhood. His fingers found a rhythm, then a melody, and before he knew it, he was singing words that celebrated everything he loved about Brazil. What poured out in less than an hour was Aquarela do Brasil, a song so full of color and pride that it would soon travel far beyond anything its creator imagined. Ary grew up in the small town of Uba in Minas Gerais, orphaned before he was 10. His mother died when he was 7, and the aunt and uncle who raised him gave him piano lessons more as a comfort than a career path. The boy would sit for hours turning simple folk tunes into something richer, something that already carried the swing he later made famous. When he finally moved to Rio as a young man, he arrived with little money and even less certainty. He played piano in silent movie houses, improvising storm music for shipwrecks on the screen and gentle waltzes for love scenes. Those long nights taught him how to speak directly to people's feelings without saying a word. But Ary was never just a background musician. He had a fiery personality and strong opinions, especially about what Brazilian music should be. He believed samba wasn't just entertainment, it was the heartbeat of the country. That conviction got him in trouble more than once. There's a wonderful story from his early radio days when he got into a heated argument with a station manager who wanted to soften the percussion for polite listeners. Ary supposedly stormed out, then returned the next night with a new song that practically dared dancers to move. The audience went wild, and the manager quietly let the percussion stay. Success came gradually, then all at once. After Aquarela do Brasil was recorded by Francisco Alves, the song had a respectable life in Brazil. Then something unexpected happened. American bandleader Xavier Cugat heard it, stripped away the Portuguese lyrics for an English version, and watched it climb the U.S. charts. Suddenly, Hollywood was calling. Walt Disney himself became enchanted with the piece and featured it in the animated film Saludos Amigos. When Disney later visited Brazil, he asked to meet the man who had written it. Ary, usually so confident, was genuinely moved by the encounter. Here was this composer from a small Brazilian town whose simple rainy night inspiration had crossed oceans. Perhaps my favorite story shows how deeply music and life were tangled for him. Ary was also a passionate football commentator, broadcasting matches for decades with the same expressive voice he brought to melody. During the 1950 World Cup, right here in Brazil, he wrote the official song, Brasil, País do Futebol. The whole nation sang it with such hope. Then came that devastating final game at Maracanã Stadium when Uruguay stole the victory in the last minutes. The country fell into mourning. Years later, Ary would chuckle and say that loss hurt him twice, once as a fan and once as a composer whose victory song now carried a touch of sorrow. That's the thing about his work. It never hid from real feeling. He could be stubborn, even difficult. When younger musicians began experimenting with what would become bossa nova, Ary initially grumbled that they were taking samba to the universities instead of the streets where it belonged. But he never stopped creating. He wrote more than 200 songs, each one painted with the same vivid brush that made Aquarela so unforgettable. Listeners loved how his music somehow felt both sophisticated and utterly down-to-earth. One moment you're hearing clever lyrics about everyday life in Rio, the next you're swept up in a carnival rhythm that makes you want to dance in your living room. What many people don't know is how hard he fought for other musicians. The recording industry in those days often left composers with very little money. Ary, who had known poverty himself, ran for city council in Rio and used his fame to push for better copyright protection. The fiery debater who once stormed out of radio stations now argued in government chambers for the dignity of artists. That part of his life rarely makes the headlines, but it tells you everything about the man's character. Listen to his music today and you understand why it still feels alive. There's Na Batucada da Vida, with its wise acceptance that life itself is a rhythm we all must dance to. There's the playful charm of Caco Velho and the pure romantic sweep of songs that somehow make you see sugarcane fields and mountain breezes, even if you've never been to Brazil. His melodies carry that particular Brazilian blend of joy and longing that tugs at something deep inside. The years have been kind to Ary Barroso's legacy. Aquarela do Brasil has been recorded by everyone from Frank Sinatra to João Gilberto to modern artists who discover it fresh. When you hear those opening notes, you still feel the rain on that Rio roof and the pride of a man who loved his country completely. In an age when music often feels disposable, Ary reminds us that a single honest melody, born on an ordinary night, can color the whole world. That's the beautiful thing about real talent. It doesn't just write songs, it hands us pieces of the heart, wrapped in rhythm, so that long after the composer is gone, we can still hear him laughing, arguing, dreaming, and dancing. And every time we listen, we're invited to do the same.
Thank you for joining us for Top Spot 40 Music docuseries. Discover all the stories behind the music at topspot40.com. Until next time, keep the music playing.